The Western way of war is not just decisive battle versus subterfuge or indirect war, because there's been a lot of Chinese generals who believed in catastrophic collisions of armies. There's been a lot of Western generals, Sherman and Patton, who believed in an indirect approach. But there is a greater tendency in the West that democracies or constitutional societies want to marshal their forces and sustain a quick victory, overwhelmingly defeat, humiliate the enemy, and go home. And they don't look at a long-term to the same degree that less liberal societies in China. If you look at, for example, you mentioned the Sun Tzu. Right about the time that he wrote The Art of War, there was a comparable military treatise written from a Western perspective, Aeneas Tacticus, it's titled in Greek, On the Defense of Fortified Positions. And they both talk about how to attack cities. And the Western approach is, there is a city, there's only 3 ways to do it. You go over, you go through, or you go under. And it's not embedded with philosophy or anything else. It's just dum, dum, dum. You read Sun Tzu,
it's
and
different.
When he taught, it's the yin and the yang and the hot and the cold. And it's part of a larger philosophical system that suggests that you really don't want to go under, through, or over, but you want to convince people that you're not doing it, or perception, and it's based on the idea that you're not going to have a mass consensus and organize the population and just do it and then quit. But there's also, just very quickly, a larger menu in the Western way, where it's not just decisive battle, it has a greater propensity to have market capitalism. It's a greater propensity to have a rational rather than irrational point. It's a greater propensity for drill and a particular type of order where you define personal courage not as berserking or heroism, but solidarity, staying in formation. It's a greater reliance on technology. And you can see, as a result of rationalism, and you can see what the Chinese have done. There's no iron law that says when you see a Chinese army on parade, it looks like a Western army, not vice versa. It has rejected its indigenous traditions of how people look in war, what type of weapons. China invented gunpowder, but mostly as a celebratory firework. When the West stole it, immediately they said, what's the practical use? And then they put it out into the world of market capitalism, and each person was competing, and subsequently every single invention in gunpowder did not come from the inventors. Corn powder, flintlocks, percussion caps, etc. Black powder, smokeless, it all came from the West as a result of people wanting to have a better product to get a better market share. And China has now understood that. So for all of its talk about Sun Tzu and its own military tradition, as we speak, it probably has 3,500 people in the United States who are actively looking for military technology to bring back to China. Every major weapon system in China has come from a Western weapon that they've tried to improve on Western ideas of improvement and competition. And so whatever they say, they are about as Western as the Japanese. Japanese were the same way. After the Westernization of Japan in the late 19th century, they sent 350,000 students to Germany to learn artillery and rifle tactics, mortars. And then as soon as Germany lost World War I, they took them out and sent them to Britain to learn naval technology. And they ended up making battleships and aircraft carriers and some mortars that were better than the creators. But they were Western Japan.